Hi, Jill Jackson here with you to show you how to seal a canvas in resin. This painting has been done in acrylics. It's been drying for several days. After it was done drying, I went ahead and gave it a really good clear coat with some clear gloss spray. I like to go ahead and seal things up before I proceed with the resin because it helps prevent bubbles from forming. The first thing you need to know when working with resin is to wear some gloves. So let me put those on. I prefer to use Pro-Marine resin. It's very inexpensive, very clear, and easy to use. I have gone to Pro-Marine supplies online and I have used their tabletop epoxy calculator to determine that I would need 11 ounces of resin to cover this canvas. I'm going to go ahead and mix up 12 ounces. I'd like to go ahead and do the sides as well. I would like to mention before I get started, almost every time that you pour resin onto a canvas, you're going to need more than one coat. I suggest 2. That way you have the best sides, you have the best result on your top. It is possible to use painter's tape to tape off the sides to prevent the resin from going down. But to me, part of the most beautiful part of the painting is the side. So I like to go ahead and shine them up. If my canvas were any larger than this 16 by 20, I would be sure to get a piece of corrugated cardboard and cut it out to about the size of the frame on the back of the canvas. Go ahead and pop it in so that literally the canvas is holding the cardboard in place. This will reinforce the canvas. On a bigger canvas, very often the weight of the resin will tend to pool and puddle all into the middle of the canvas, and that is not a good result. Do remember though that almost all mistakes made with resin can be fixed with a light sanding and another coat of resin. To get started mixing our resin, I've got a reusable plastic measuring cup just from a dollar type store. We're going to mix up 12 ounces today. First we'll pour in 6 ounces of our hardener into this measuring cup. It's very important when you're measuring resin that you be very precise. I am using Pro-Marine epoxy. It is a 1-to-1 part resin, a hardener, and the resin itself. Right after I've poured it into the cup, here we go, and we're going to begin stirring. You want to stir very slowly so that you're not introducing bubbles. And at first we need to stir 3 or 4 minutes, really until you start to see, you see how cloudy this is right in here right now? Once you start to see this clear up, you can tell. But do go ahead and set a timer. I'll be back. After you've mixed your resin for 3 minutes, we need to go ahead and transfer it into a clean plastic container. So what I've got here is a 16-ounce plastic cup, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to empty my resin into this cup, scraping the edges and trying to get as much in as I possibly can. This is the last time I'll be scraping though. When I'm done with this batch and I'm applying the resin to the canvas, I will be sure not to go ahead and scrape out the sides. You don't want to do that. There might be a little tiny bit of a hardener or something stuck on the side, and you wouldn't want to introduce that. So I'm starting out here with a fresh cup. I've poured my resin in here. I've got a fresh stick. We're going to go ahead and stir for another 3 minutes. Nice and slow. Be sure to scrape down the edges frequently as well as the bottom of the cup. I'll be right back. I have finished stirring my resin for another 3 minutes. You can see that it's nice and clear. Everything has melded together. There are some bubbles in there, but that's all right. We're going to take care of that here shortly with either our butane torch or with our Scripto torch and flame. So we're ready to go ahead and pour. I am going to pour my resin on all around the canvas. I like to try not to take it over the edge until I'm done spreading it in the middle. Again, we don't want to scrape our cup. We don't want to take a chance that there could be some hardener or resin left in the cup and we pull it out and that spot doesn't cure. Now I am going to use a resin spreading tool can also use a palette knife. You can use a popsicle stick. If it is plastic and you put it down on plastic, if you wipe it off with a paper towel when you're done using it and you lay it down on a plastic surface like a tablecloth or a garbage bag, after the resin cures, you can peel it off and use this again and again. Same with your measuring cups. So I'm going to take my resin tool and I'm going to begin spreading my resin, again taking it almost to the edge, but not quite there. I want to get it all around the surface of my canvas before I start spreading it off the edge. Once it goes overboard, it really goes over. Let me move around to this side. If you can look into the light while you're working with this, it is your best friend. I am actually working here in low light so that you can see what I'm doing. The shine off the resin is so great that it's really difficult to film with any background light. So I'm just using some nice natural light. Now it's time to go and take it up to our edge. I'm going to work around. Often on a canvas, you're going to have to work around several times. Sometimes there will be a little bit of dimpling and it won't go quite up to the edge right with your first coat. I know that this seems upsetting. It's a little bit off-putting, especially the first few times you've used resin. But that's all right. We've already planned that we're going to put a second coat on. And any imperfections that are there, we can take care of those later. So I like to take it all the way to the edge, all the way around the canvas. And again, I'm going to wipe off my tool with a paper towel and lay it down on the table. Before I proceed, I'd like to go ahead and take care of the bubbles in this canvas. I'm going to use a butane torch to do this. If you don't have a butane torch, that's all right. What also works very well would be a heat gun. We'll do the same job for you. You want to make sure not to be blowing your resin around though. You'd want to use it probably on a low heat. You can also use just a Scripto torch and flame lighter. These are often available at the big box stores, or you can get them online at an Amazon.com. I'm going to start with my butane torch. What you want to do is just barely let the flame kiss the top of the canvas. If you look into the light, you can see the bubbles disappearing. Be very careful with your surrounding area. You don't want to set anything on fire. This is just a culinary torch that I got at Amazon. I hope you can see all the bubbles that are coming out here. All right, let me go to the other side. Walk around the dog there. Come around to this side and remove those bubbles. From here, I like to go ahead and take my finger and pull it out just gently around the canvas. I'm trying to ensure coverage. Again, with a canvas, sometimes it can be very difficult, particularly with this first coat. That's all right, we'll be patient with this. See, this side is doing very well. A few holes over here. Let me go ahead and get this down. Now I'm going to take my finger and run it all the way around, both on the side of the canvas and then underneath. This will help to spread the resin around the sides of your canvas evenly. And underneath, if you do not take your finger, see, I'm going to go underneath here and rub off any resin that has dripped down. If you don't rub this off, well, it's okay, but you end up with little drops of hardened resin on the back, and I don't find that very pleasing. A few is okay, but I don't like to go overboard. All right, we're looking good. I can see that a few of my edges are being a little bit resistant. Let me take my tool again and see if I can't work these over to the edge a little bit more. And if it doesn't go, that's all right. Again, the second coat should take care of that. Now, since I've done that, and anyway, I like to go ahead and assure that the bubbles are removed. I'm going to use my Scripto torch and flame, especially in this area, just to go over it again lightly. I very often like to use this during the second pass, just to make sure that the bubbles are removed. This is something that you're going to want to do for the next half hour or an hour as your resin cures up. I like to go around the side and then again back under the bottom. With just this 12 ounces going over this size canvas, there isn't a lot of overflow, but I still would like to keep everything neat. Alright, so this is looking pretty good. I'm going to come back and torch probably in 10 minutes and then again in 10 minutes to remove the bubbles. I'm going to go get a cardboard box and get this covered up. It's best to let your resin cure with a box over it to prevent dust and debris and sometimes even bugs. I've had a moth land in my resin, not fun to remove. So let's go ahead and let this cure. If you come back to put your second coat of resin on within 4 to 6 hours, you will not have to sand your piece. If you let the piece go for more than 6 hours, it's best to come back with an 80 grit sandpaper, lightly scuff up the sides and surface, really anywhere that the resin has been. I know this seems counterintuitive, but it's the only way to give the resin some tooth so that the next coat will stick. After you've completed that, take a damp paper towel and wipe down the scuffed resin surface to remove any debris. Then you'll be ready to go for your second coat. Mixing up the resin is just the same. You pour it on and apply it exactly the same. Let it go ahead and cure overnight. The resin should be fully hard after about 72 hours and can be handled. So what do you think of that beautiful resin sheen? Please let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe, and always remember there's plenty more at sisterearth.net. Happy creating!